Imagine yourself on a small wooden fishing boat, floating in the middle of a turquoise sea. The water is calm, the horizon stretches endlessly, and scattered across it are tiny reefs and islets that look harmless, almost invisible to the world. But beneath this surface calm lies one of the most contested and dangerous regions on Earth, the South China Sea. At first glance, it might seem like just another stretch of ocean. But this is a place where history, power, and ambition collide. It is a place where global trade, energy, and survival intersect. And it is a place where one wrong move could spark a conflict felt around the world. The South China Sea is not just water. It is one of the busiest highways of global commerce. Every year, more than $3 trillion worth of goods flow through these waters. Tankers carry oil from the Middle East to East Asia. Cargo ships haul electronics and raw materials across continents, and fishing boats bring in catches that feed millions. Beneath its surface lie vast reserves of oil and natural gas, resources that could fuel nations for decades. Its fisheries provide food and livelihoods for entire communities. To control these waters is to control lifelines that nations cannot live without. But the sea is also a maze of claims and counterclaims. China points to ancient maps and legends to justify its sweeping claim over almost the entire sea, marked by what is known as the Nine-Dash Line. This claim cuts deep into waters that other nations also insist are theirs. Vietnam argues that its fishermen and settlers lived off these reefs for generations. The Philippines relies on international law, insisting the waters near its coasts fall within its exclusive economic zone. Malaysia and Brunei also lay claims, pointing to geography and proximity. Taiwan, too, maintains control over one of the largest islands in the region. Every one of these countries has maps, history, and arguments to back their stance. None is willing to give up. For decades, many of the islands in this sea were nothing more than sandbars and reefs, visible only at low tide. But in recent years, they have been transformed. Satellite images reveal an astonishing change. China, in particular, has carried out a massive campaign of island building, dredging up sand and concrete to turn submerged reefs into sprawling military bases. Fiery Cross Reef, Mischief Reef, and Subi Reef, once tiny specks, are now home to airstrips, deep water ports, radar domes and barracks, runways long enough for fighter jets, harbors large enough for warships, and defenses strong enough to monitor and control the skies and waters for hundreds of miles have been built seemingly overnight. Other nations have not stayed silent. Vietnam has reinforced its holdings with garrisons and structures, fortifying even the smallest patches of rock. The Philippines maintains its presence, famously stationing troops aboard a rusting warship deliberately grounded on a reef to serve as an outpost. Malaysia and Taiwan hold their ground as well. From above, it looks like a bizarre chessboard scattered across the ocean, each nation moving its pieces, each determined not to lose ground. But the South China Sea is not just a regional issue. What happens here affects the world. If tensions erupt, the shipping lanes that carry the lifeblood of global trade could be blocked. Energy supplies could be disrupted. Economies around the globe could be shaken. For the countries directly involved, the fight is not only about pride, it is about survival. Whoever controls the sea controls food, fuel, and freedom of movement. Clashes have already happened. Coast guards confront each other at sea. Fishing boats are harassed and sunk, survey vessels are shadowed by naval ships, and military jets buzz dangerously close in the skies. In 2012, a tense standoff unfolded between China and the Philippines at Scarborough Shoal. In 2014, an oil rig placed by China in waters claimed by Vietnam led to confrontations, collisions, and angry protests. In 2019, a Philippine fishing boat was rammed and left to sink in the night. These are not isolated events. They are signs of how fragile and combustible the situation has become. The United States, along with its allies, has entered the picture as well. Washington insists the South China Sea must remain free and open, and that no one power should dominate it. To make this point, American warships regularly sail near the contested islands, challenging China's claims in what are called freedom of navigation operations. These patrols send a clear message: the world does not recognize China's sweeping control. Japan, Australia, India, and even European nations have also voiced their concerns, sending their own ships or supporting international rulings. From China's perspective, however, these maneuvers feel like outsiders intruding into its backyard, like encirclement and provocation. The standoff deepens. Caught in the middle of all this are ordinary people. The fishermen of Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia, who for centuries cast their nets in these waters, now sail with fear. Imagine being a fisherman, waking before dawn, setting off to the same reefs your father and grandfather fished, only to be chased by foreign coast guards, your nets cut, your boat rammed, your catch confiscated. For these communities, the sea that once fed them has become a battleground. Their stories rarely make the headlines, but their struggles are real, and they reveal the human cost of the dispute. The legal battle has been just as fierce as the naval one. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled in favor of the Philippines, declaring that China's 9-dash line had no basis under international law. It was a landmark victory for smaller nations, but China rejected the ruling outright, calling it invalid. Instead of resolving the issue, the verdict deepened divisions, as each side doubled down on its position. International law had spoken, but without enforcement, little changed on the water. So the question remains, where does this end? Some experts warn that the South China Sea could become the spark for a much larger conflict, perhaps even drawing in superpowers. Others believe the sea could be a platform for cooperation, where nations set aside disputes to share resources and ensure peace. The reality is uncertain. Each runway built, each ship launched, each patrol carried out adds fuel to a growing fire. Yet there are also moments of dialogue, attempts to establish codes of conduct, and fragile agreements to prevent accidents from spiraling out of control. As you listen to this story, picture the islands themselves, lonely reefs, some no larger than a football field, standing silently in the waves. They have been here for millennia, indifferent to human boundaries and ambitions, and yet today they are at the center of a global storm. Will they become symbols of conflict and division? Or can they one day symbolize cooperation and peace? The South China Sea is more than a body of water. It is a mirror reflecting the ambitions and insecurities of nations. It is a test of whether the world chooses confrontation or compromise. The fishermen still sail. The warships still patrol. The construction still continues. The story is not yet finished. But one thing is certain. What happens in the South China Sea will not stay in the South China Sea. Its ripples will be felt across oceans, across continents, and across generations. So the next time you glance at a world map and see that wide stretch of blue labeled South China Sea, remember that it is not empty space. It is one of the most contested places on Earth, where history and destiny collide, where the future of nations is being written wave by wave.